Welcome! Today we're going to be taking a look at Alien Frontiers. Alien Frontiers is a 2 to 4 player area control dice worker placement game where you are trying to be the best at colonizing this planet. Now the goal to this game is to have the most victory points or be further along the victory point track when someone places their last colony on the planet. There are 4 ways to get victory points in this game. You will get a victory point every time you place one of the colonies onto the planet. The second way is at the end of the game, for every territory you control on this planet, you will get another victory point. The third way to get victory points is to have this positron field on one of your controlled territories. That will give you a bonus victory point in the end. And the fourth way to get victory points in this game is to have one or multiple victory point cards in your possession at the end of the game. Now that we know what the winning conditions are, let's go ahead and take a look at the game components, setup, and how a turn actually works. Let's look at the components first. Each player has dice, which are their ships, colonies, which are these domed figures, and rocket ships, which are the point trackers. Going around the board, you'll notice some other components. On the top left, you're going to notice the orange discs, which are your fuel. In the bottom right, you're going to notice your gray cubes, which are the ore. And then on the right side of the board, you're going to notice your alien tech cards. In the center of the board, you'll notice your territory bonus tiles. And then on the left side of the board, you're going to notice the fields. So your positron field, which we talked about earlier, gives you 1 victory point in the territory you control. The repulsar field, the purple, means that you cannot add or subtract from that territory where it is located. And then the isolation field allows you to place that on a territory, and the people can no longer get the bonus for that territory. Let's go ahead and look at the setup. As you can see, this is set up for a 2-player game. When setting up a game, you start by covering up spots on the board depending on the player count. So if you're playing a 2-player game, you would cover up spots that have 2 or 3 dots. If it was a 3-player game, you would only cover up the 3 dots spot. And then if it was a 4-player game, none of the spots would be covered. Then each player will grab the color that they choose and take out their ships or dice, placing 3 in front of them and 3 in the maintenance bay, and then taking out the number of colonies based on the number of players. So in a 2-player game, you'll see that we have 8 colonies for each player. Then they'll place their rocket ship at 0 and decide who the first player will be. Whoever the first player is will only get 1 tech card, and then the second player will get a tech card and a fuel to start the game. Now let's take a look at how a turn works. There are 4 steps to every turn. Step number 1, move any terraformed ships down to the shipyard. Step number 2, pick up and roll your ships. Step number 3, place all ships and carry out subsequent actions. Now let's go ahead and take a look at all the possible actions for your ships, starting in the top left corner at the solar converter. The solar converter will allow you to gain fuel based on the number on your ship. So a 1 or a 2 would gain you 1 fuel, 3 or a 4 will gain you 2 fuel, and a 5 or a 6 would gain you 3 fuel. Then going clockwise, we go to the orbital market. The orbital market will allow you to exchange fuel for ore. So if you place 2 3s at the orbital market, then you could exchange 3 fuel for 1 ore. Next, we have the alien artifact. For any dice placed at the alien artifact, you can replace the 3 alien tech cards showing. And then if you have multiple ships placed at the alien artifact that add up to be greater than or equal to 8, you can actually take one of those cards. An alien tech card can only be played during your turn, unless it is a victory point card in which you could hold on to the end of the game. Next is the Raiders Outpost. At the Raiders Outpost, you can steal 4 resources or a tech card from one of your opponents. To go to the Raiders Outpost, you need 3 ships in increasing order, so a 2, 3, or a 4, or a 4, 5, and a 6. Now, after you place your ships there, another player can go there and use the Raiders Outpost if they have numbers greater than the ones that were already placed. Next, we have the Lunar Mine. The Lunar Mine will allow you to gain 1 ore for every dice placed there. After 1 dice is placed there, every subsequent dice will have to be greater than or equal to in value. Then next we have the Colony Constructor. The Colony Constructor will allow you to put 3 of 1 number on that spot. So if you have 3 1s for your ship, you can place the 3 1s there at the Colony Constructor. And then once you do so, you can pay 3 ore to place a colony on the board. Next is the Colonist Hub. For each dice that you place at the Colonist Hub, you can put a colony or advance it down the track to where once it gets to the end, it can then be placed on the planet for a cost of 1 fuel and 1 ore. Next, we have the Shipyard. And if you get doubles, you can go to the Shipyard, and if you're getting your 4th dice, you would pay 1 fuel and 1 ore. If you're getting your 5th dice or 5th ship, you would pay 2 fuel and 2 ore, or 6th and pay 3 fuel and 3 ore. Lastly, we have the Terraforming Station. If you have 4, 5, or 6 dice, you can use the Terraforming Station by placing a 6 on your ship, and then paying a fuel and an ore to place a colony. Now, once you place the dice here, the next turn it would be moved to the Shipyard and you would have to pay to get it back. After you've placed all of your dice on the board, you will leave them there until your next turn. Which brings us to step number 4, which is to make sure that you have at most 8 resources. If you have more than 8 after these steps, then you will have to reduce to 8. Then your turn is over, and that will continue until someone places their very last colony. It is at this point that I want to talk about placing colonies. When you do go to one of these spots and place a colony, you'll simply take the colony, put it on a particular territory on that planet, and if you are placing it, you gain 1 victory point. And if you are the only one there, or you are gaining control, having more than the opponents, then you will gain the territory bonus tile. As soon as someone contests that territory, that bonus tile will go back to that territory. There you have it. That is Alien Frontiers. I hope you enjoy.